Alrighty guys, so this is the Doomlands Impact Zone Desolator, and as promised we're going to do a modification guide for it. We've got replacement motors, we have LiPo power, all of the materials used in this video will be in the description box below. Step 1 is going to be on this side. Knock out these original batteries so that we can put some serious ones inside, and now we can get at it from this angle. Drop this funky clipazine out and start breaking it down. Time-lapse magic, go! Hiya! We're gonna set all of this aside. Take a look at our guts. This is pretty basic strife, guys. Trigger mechanism, locks, battery tray, back end here, and a motor cage. The real question here is if the motor cage is the same as a strife motor cage. The answer to which is no. No, it is not. So we're gonna keep this motor cage, which is fine. Just good to know for aftermarket stuff. Let's gut it. Okay, so the internals for this are super basic flywheel internals, but they're kind of cool in a lot of ways. The piece here that covers the wiring is entirely proprietary and slips into here. All these mechanical locks had to go. All of the electronic locks came out with the circuit. So that was all also very super easy to accomplish. Now we get to play with some fun stuff. So what I think I'm gonna do is integrate a LiPo permanently into the stock to redistribute the weight to the back, and then put all of the connectors for that on the other side. I have to dump these screws out anyway. So those are all of our fun motor cage screws. Don't want to lose these little guys. We'll set them off to the side. We'll actually put them in the jam door. These fell out, but they're going to hold in this weird proprietary piece up here. Trigger is obscenely thin on this guy, but I figure we can actually run our leads to charge the LiPo through this pack here. So all we have to do is make sure that the one that we choose fits inside this compartment and that the leads can in fact reach here. Snapping these out is really, really easy, guys. Boom, boom, no more garbage plastic pieces. Although these ones are kind of cool because they're transparent orange. We'll also probably rip all the metal out of here just so that we have no chance of shorts. Again, if you need to know about any of the materials used in this modification from the wire that I'm installing, which is special. It's a special 18 gauge silicone coated insulated threaded hobby grade wire, to the motors, to the solder that I'm using, etc. Everything will be linked down in the description box below, and buying materials through those links helps out the channel so I can keep making cool mod guides. Okay, so the one thing that I didn't show on camera was the installation of this, but that's because it was complicated and I had to constantly turn it to get the epoxy to set right. So this is a channel that I carved out in the back here, measuring at each different filing, while simultaneously keeping the ramp so that darts could go through after I installed the new motors. Now, what it is the voltmeter for the blaster itself. It should be a blue LED voltmeter, and it's integrated in such a place that on any other blaster, you wouldn't be able to see it. Then the leads are pulled over and around, and then back behind these leads so that they can eventually come down to a power source in the same fashion. But it should work really well in the Desolator because there's just enough clearance in the clear part of this shell here that this voltmeter now shows through. We might have to add more LEDs now. This project is becoming overkill. Anyway, let's keep time-lapsing, keep working on it. So, after carving out all of this, came in and dremeled out a wide channel here and then 2 channels here. That's so that all of our wire leads can meet in here and be charged, while this LiPo, which should now just barely, this is tricky guys, this XT60 doesn't want to go through. The point is that this LiPo will fit right here in the stock and power everything going on in the blaster. It should be pretty cool. High amperage cherry switch, which we will be replacing the regular switch with. It can handle the current coming out of the LiPo pack, which is essential for what we're going to be doing. The other thing that I decided is that this should have built-in Firefly tech. Since we're already adding the voltmeter, which will be constantly glowing blue, I've got these UV LEDs and a resistor. Again, all the materials are going to be in the description, but the resistor will get wired into the cathode for the LEDs, and then the anode already has a black lead that's been soldered to it coming out. I'm going to tease these up in here so that they'll shine into the cavity. You can't actually put them down here because of the way the magwell is so tight in there. There just simply wouldn't be room. So this is the only 2 LEDs I'm going to put in. They're really more for Firefly tech than like ambient lighting or anything cool like that. Other than that, all we have to do is start cutting out the area here so that this switch, whoops, don't want to lose the spring, does in fact still engage the rev function. So we've got our negative lead, which is actually what we're going to be using for the switch for the main circuit, and then we have our positive lead, as well as the much lower gauge wire, which will also be linked, which we're using for both the LEDs and the voltmeter, and we'll splice those into the main circuit somewhere in the dead space up here. But all of that is a lot of fun talk. Let's actually make it happen. So the switch is fully installed and clicky. I have off camera spliced all of the wire leads for the voltmeter into the main circuit, except for the cathode, which needs to be spliced obviously on the other end of the switch so that it's constantly pulling voltage, not just when the blaster is revving. We intentionally saved this splice because I think that these are just going to be always on LEDs. There are only 2 of them and they're micro LEDs. I don't think that they're going to draw a ton of current, so we're going to add the LEDs and then we'll hot glue them into place. I don't like using hot glue for projects, but I think in this case it's going to be A, necessary, and B, fine. So we'll do that, splice those into place, and we should be ready to add the internals after that. So with that, we have the LiPo installed, the switch is in, the LEDs are good, the motors and flywheels are set. I think that everything's going to be okay. For a quick one evening project, this should be a ton of fun. All we have to do is sign it here, button it up, and we'll take it outside and show you how it performs. Alright guys, so I know that the workshop is a huge mess right now, but one of the most important things about integrating a LiPo into any system is to know how to properly charge it. So this is of course my LiPo charger. Now we know that we're going to balance charge this, so we need to balance charge it. We can do about 0.8 since it's a 1 amp, and then it's a 2S. So to balance charge, always monitor your batteries while they're being charged. Normally I would do this in a fireproof bag, but since it's integrated into the blaster itself, I'm just going to keep a very close eye on it. So we can charge through this lead, keep this lead away since it leads to the motors, and then stay away. And then it'll check, and it's found out that is in fact correct, and it's going to start charging. So when it's fully charged, we'll button it up, show you how that works, take it outside for a firing demo. It's charging fast, wow. Alrighty guys, so I'm not sure how well this LCD is going to display, but over the course of 53 minutes we charged all the way up to 8.39 volts, which is where we want to be. So we'll kill that, unplug it because I like to do that, and then disconnect here. Now I didn't put any sort of break for the LEDs or voltmeter. They are always on because they draw so very, very little current in this, but we have this showing a reading of 8.43, which is very odd. Perhaps the voltmeter is, I wonder which one is more correct, more accurate. Who knows? So we might be a little over capacity, but that's no big deal because we're going to discharge this as soon as we're done with the video. But it constantly glows, which is really, really neat. I'll show you that in the dark, but the combination of the UV LEDs and the voltmeter itself really, I think, lends to the kind of sci-fi aspect of the Desolator in the first place. The glow also makes sense in an Arctic setting, but the performance of this now, well, the very clicky switch here, that is kind of obnoxious. The magazine full to capacity vibrates so much that if there's a worn dart on top, it'll vibrate it out of the magazine, which is just gross. But we can fire it. That was quick and dirty. Oh man. So this Desolator is humming now. Just absolutely on fire, and it looks great in the dark, but I'm really pleased with the overhaul here. I think that the blaster turned out looking more or less the same. It's almost a sleeper if it weren't for that voltmeter and the LED work, but it hits like a truck now. It's a fully fledged primary. It's very comfortable, very durable, and you don't have to worry about losing the battery. I'm kind of worried how I'm going to fly with it with the LiPo integrated into something that's shaped like a gun. That's going to be tricky, but let's take a look at it in the dark. I really want you guys to appreciate this LED work that's been done. Even though it is minor and light, I think it really changes the overall feel of the Desolator, particularly at night. Yeah? I don't know, what do you guys think? That's pretty cool, right? I'd take that into the Arctic wilderness with me any day. Super duper cool. So that's the modification guide for the Nerf Doomlands Impact Zone Desolator. If you have any questions about the process and want to know more about how to make a top tier flywheel, I'll put links to all of the materials used in this modification in the description box below. And for a more detailed explanation of certain facets of the build, don't forget to check out my Sanguine video where I build the world's finest Nerf sidearm and show the process for all of that as well. It has a slightly different flywheel cage, but it's using a ton of the same parts and the same principles throughout. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks very much for watching.